Hello, everybody.
Yes, good morning or whatever time you're listening. For us, it is morning, and it is finally cold here, and we are having tea, coffee, wearing sweaters. It's marvelous.
Yes, happy Haunted Hearts to you all.
Yes. So, what were we reading this week or month? I don't know. What are we reading? When is it? Who am I?
What are we reading? I mean, I have been reading our book for this week, Stardust of Yesterday. And then I read a truly bonkers ghost romance. A quick 180 something pages of bonkers.
Yeah, I noped out of that one. That is
Yeah.
that is
I had a great time. I read it now. Don't want to read it again, but I do want to talk about it it was great to drop in the group chat. And still had a great time. It was not necessarily for Shannon,
right.
but it was well done.
Well, I'm not sure that the book Stardust of Yesterday is necessarily for me in a different way.
Right.
Like not in a like what the hell is going on, but in like it's not the kind of romance that I typically gravitate toward despite having a ghost.
True. So yeah, let's talk about it.
Yes, I think we should.
Yeah, since that's why we're here.
Yes. The book we're talking about is Stardust of Yesterday by Lynn Kurland. It was published in 1996. Is that right?
I believe that is correct. I don't have my copy with me right here. Well, that's not true. I have my e-copy because I own it in many ways.
I think I have your physical copy up here. So it is a book to me that feels very much of its time. Like
if you would like to step into 1996, this is a great way to do it.
This is the book for you. It feels very much of its time. It was an enjoyable read. There's nothing there's nothing wrong with it. I don't want to start out being like, I hated this book. I did not hate this book at all. I've read this book multiple times throughout my life. Just where I am in my life right now and who I have matured into, it is not necessarily something that gives me butterflies and makes my heart flutter.
Yeah. So this book is about Genevieve, who inherits a castle that is haunted. And then of course there are shenanigans with the haunt
and the love story and all the good things. It's very much a wish fulfillment.
Oh my goodness, I'd forgotten how much.
Yeah.
It was a wish fulfillment book. So I read I don't know how, someone do the math. And by someone, I mean Robin, do the math. How old were we in 1996?
I was 15, so you were 14.
So I read this at 14 and I read it and latched onto it pretty hard. It is the book that made me really love a ghost romance, as we have discussed, and reading it now after some therapy and some real introspection over the last especially 5 years, I understand 100% why 14-year-old Shannon loved this book in a way that you never did.
No, I enjoyed it because I at the time enjoyed reading almost anything I could get my hands on, like literally anything, romance, sci-fi, anything I could get my hands on, I enjoyed reading. As I was reading it, I was sort of taking a critical look at, why I would have enjoyed it then, why you would have enjoyed it then, what do I enjoy about it now, what's the difference? Coming at it 30 years later, we don't talk about that. Yeah. I mean, coming at it 30 years later there's a lot of time and history between those things.
I hadn't read it. This is one of those books that I'll walk by on the shelf and I'll be like, oh, let me pick that up, and I'll just reread a scene or two. But I hadn't read it in its entirety in I don't remember the last time. And so
I think I was in my early 20s when I read it the last time. So we're talking decades. Between reads for this. Yeah, and I enjoyed it, but it did take me a lot longer to read than a lot of other books.
Yeah, interestingly, when we say it's of its time, I think it's of its time in a couple different ways. It's of its time because, like, the most amazing thing that Genevieve could get the ghost for Christmas is a computer that you could talk to.
Yeah.
Like has
Yes.
all the money in the world, and she is like blown away that she can get this ghost a computer
A
he can talk
computer.
to, that he can talk to. Like, and that is just, we talk to our light bulbs now. So, like, I mean, we don't sometimes when Amazon fails, but
Yes, that.
I digress. And so, like, that's one way that it's of its time. But another way that I felt like it's of its time is in the 90s. I felt like a lot of times there was the plot, that a thing would happen and that wouldn't be enough. That thing would get resolved and then we would have to have like another thing and
Right.
maybe even another thing. Like every time you would think things would be tied up in a tidy little bow and you'd get your epilogue with kids and shit, like it went again. Like
Yes.
and that's really from what I remember reading in the 90s, and that definitely happened in this book.
Yes,
Like,
it did just sort of, like, I don't want to spoil it, but the conflict is resolved. The main conflict, right? The ghost conflict is resolved way sooner than it would be, I think, in a more modern book.
right. Yeah.
Obviously, if we're reading ghost romances, I don't think it's a stretch to say that the ghost conflict will be resolved in some way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Well, I mean, it all hinges. We believe in happily ever after.
Right.
And it all that. How are you happy and dead?
Right. Exactly. Like, how can you be both? One of you can't be alive and the other one can't be dead, and you have a happily ever after. We're not in the main podcast of this. We're not reading that. We might do some special episodes about things that aren't entirely. They have romantic elements, but they're not necessarily romance.
Yeah.
But for the bulk of what we're going to talk about, it is safe to say that the ghost or time travel conflict will be resolved.
Right. That it. Yes, I'm with you there.
And this one is resolved so quickly, I felt.
Yeah. So I felt like it was resolved quickly, but satisfactory. It happened in the right time. What is surprising is that the book
kept going for 200 more pages.
Right. That is what is surprising. Also surprising is how, like, you suddenly get like a lot more side characters in the last half of the book.
You were just introducing more characters there.
Right.
Like,
right.
How are we going to resolve? Actually, I don't even remember how some of those side characters, they're introduced, there's a conflict, and then the resolution is maybe a sentence or two. So I felt like that was unnecessary. One of my, it's not really a criticism, it's just a thing that didn't work for me necessarily, because the writing is great, right? The writing itself is beautiful. I have no complaints about her overall, stylistically. But it didn't work for me because there was less falling in love and more being a couple, if that makes sense. Like, I like books that the bulk of it is taken up with the tension of falling in love and will they, won't they? And you finally get to like a kiss moment or a confession or whatever it is, and you've spent 200 or 300 pages leading up to this. And there wasn't a lot of that tension in this book. It's very sweet. It's very kind. It's very loving, but there's not a lot of tension.
Yeah, which is hilarious because one of them is dead.
Right. And you would think that that would lead to quite a bit more, like,
when there is tension. One of the things that rereading two particular scenes still hit for me this many years later. There's a scene, again, we don't want to get into rehashing whole books here, but I think in talking about them, we do have to do a little bit of spoilery things.
Yes.
There is a scene where the engagement scene.
Mm-hmm.
I remember reading as a young one and being just like floored.
If you've read the book, that will make sense to you.
Yes, Kendrick ends up on the floor. I remember just, but like that, there isn't a lot of like showing how these two fell in love, but like there is a decent amount of showing how they love each other. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and that's what I was trying to say earlier. There's very little lead up to them being in love, right? There's very
It is a
little.
little bit like we're in love.
Right. It's like instant love.
Right. It is a little bit, yes. So like rereading that scene still really hit for me. The secondary scene where like for whatever reason Kendrick can touch her for like a split second and then they both fucking fall to the floor and it's big drama and they're crying and sulking and like both of those scenes still, that was like, I felt like really beautifully crafted. Like you felt that tension, you felt that pain and that like sort of despair of like, I love this person and slash ghost and this is our life now. Like,
right.
you
And
know.
it does feel really miserable in that moment. Like, I can't touch him. I can't hold her. You know, you really feel all of that despair.
Yeah.
And
reading that now and knowing who I was at 14, some of those things are really, it's becoming very clear to me why I really loved this book then and that I need more therapy now. Because Genevieve like felt separate from her parents, but then she managed to create a life that she was really loving, and then that life gets like yanked away from her. I don't want to spoil how that happens, but it's not great. And then she starts to make this dream life and it's still not hers. And as a 14-year-old child who had some trauma going on, that was ringing true for me. That was like wish fulfillment.
I mean,
I needed that.
This is the most intense wish fulfillment. I mean, she inherits a castle and more money than either of them could ever spend in multiple lifetimes out of the blue.
Interestingly, since childhood, she's been collecting castles.
Right.
Which I had forgotten.
Yes. Yeah. And she made like a whole fantasy about having a castle and, you know.
She went into historic preservation as her job. And then she just like stumbles. It felt a little Fated Mates, actually.
Yep.
Without being too Fated Mates, because too Fated Mates and I don't really, I'm like, well, then why do they love each other?
Right. It's definitely, yeah, that removes all like agency and choice. It definitely has an element of like the universe conspiring to bring this to fruition, because
Correct.
when the curse is finally broken, it's sort of instantaneous. How do I explain this? It fixes everything because that's what happens when the curses are broken. But the way that it's broken is, again, more universe conspiring to have made this thing and these two people be together in this time and space. I mean, I do think it was kind of interesting to look at what a 20th century man would be doing if he didn't have to work, if he didn't have to, because all of the men that I knew in the 20th century were working, or they weren't just independently wealthy owning castles, you know?
Yeah.
It's interesting how easy it is for my brain to slip into a world that doesn't have computers or cell phones or,
Yeah.
you know, it's really easy to imagine that again and be like, oh, maybe that was a little bit of a simpler time where you could just go to London for a weekend and the only way people could reach you is on your
call every hotel in London.
Yeah.
The days.
To not be reachable.
Yeah, I'm looking over some of the things that I like annotated in the ebook, and one of the first things on page 10 was a quote that says, most people tended to walk all over her, and she tended to lie down and let them do it. And I was like, oh, this is why 14-year-old Shannon like really latched onto this character, like, because I felt like that was who I was. Like, I just let people walk all over me. I'm a different person now, but sometimes.
For what it's worth, I never thought that you let people walk all over you, but
I think maybe you've done a little revisionist history.
I mean, that could be.
Or maybe I just didn't let you walk all over me.
That could very well be. It's interesting.
My fated hetero life mate.
Right. It's interesting that I'm just thinking of this. So there are two sort of villains in this, which I don't know that you need villains in a ghost romance because you already have the conflict, like capital T, capital C.
The villain is the death.
Right. The villain is not being a ghost. But you did have two villains in this who are sort of working together, and honestly, it was sort of a silly.
Yeah.
But
you didn't need it.
No, you didn't need it at all. But the interesting thing is, Genevieve allows people to walk all over her in the beginning, right? But she has this character growth where she learns to stand up for herself. She learns to boss the ghost around. She really has a lot of character growth there.
Yeah, on page 43, she's like, damn it, it was going to stop. She was sick to death of people telling her what to do, taking advantage of her good nature, leaving tread marks on the back of her clothes. She definitely has a growth moment.
Right, but the other character who lets people walk all over him is the lawyer, right?
Yes.
And
yes,
his name's McShane, and he does not have any character growth. And because he doesn't have any character growth and he doesn't have the same journey as Genevieve, he ends up, his letting people walk all over him basically gets him killed. So it's an interesting parallel that she's trying to draw about being a strong person, having your own sense of self, and what that can do to you. I think she probably doesn't mean that it will kill you literally, but it might kill you emotionally if you're not learning to stand up for yourself and be a whole person. And I think that's a fair lesson. Not everybody has to be like a boss bitch, but...
No, not everybody has to be a boss bitch.
No, but we still should be able to say how we feel and have our own lives and not be manipulated into doing things we don't want to do and, all of that good stuff. So just an interesting parallel I just thought of. And I will say that it is so 90s in the way that it's written from what I think of now as a really corny perspective from the villain. His name is Maledica, which literally means curse.
Yeah.
And it is so on the nose.
Well, not all of us speak French.
It's not French.
Latin.
It's Latin and Italian.
Not all of us speak that, but it is a definite, even when it's first said that that's his name, there's a hint, nudge,
right,
nudge.
Hey. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Yeah.
Even I, who did not feel like looking it up, was like, I don't know what that word means, but it means something.
It also always reminds me of the great 90s classic Practical Magic, because one of the things they're doing, one of the spells they're casting is something about Te Maledica.
Come on, if I thought about that.
Yep. And those would have been about this. I mean, Practical Magic was 98, 99, or is it 97? And
It is interesting that this is going to end up being this series of us talking about these books. This is going to end up being a study of the 90s because this series started with this book and then went on another 30 books through 2001, I think.
Right. Maybe so this is really a study of our late teens, early 20s is what I'm hearing.
The late 90s.
Yeah.
I would love to ask Lynn Kurland, which I recently started. I found her on Instagram and she's she's in Scotland, I think. England and Scotland, and posting all of these medieval places, and she's still out here. She's still out here doing the same things, writing the same kind. She's written some fantasy, and she's really she obviously has some special interests, and I'm here for it. So one of the things I'd love to ask is, this book is supposed to be the first in this series, The Haunted Hearts. The cover that we have, the book that I have, is the same. Are you?
The sun is just really, yeah.
So yeah, the cover of this first book is just like a run-of-the-mill corner cover. It's great. There's a guy that looks like the Highlander in a
He looks
frame.
so much like Adrian Paul.
So much
So
like
much like
Adrian
Adrian
Paul.
Paul.
Side note, if you did not experience the 90s and would like to experience the 90s through some media, highly
The Highlander
recommend
series.
the Highlander series.
Yep. Not the movies, although those are great. You want
Those are
the
great.
television series.
It's Highlander, the movies are a little serious. They're like
Yes.
very serious.
Yes.
Highlander, the TV show, it's like you took Highlander the movie and like poured a little bit of Buffy the Vampire Slayer in it. Like,
Yes.
it's just a little unserious.
Yeah,
in
no,
the best way.
if you truly want to experience the 90s through media, I think Highlander and Buffy are
Great.
are two of your big ones.
Oh, yeah. So back to what I wanted to ask, because
sorry.
no, I mean, let's just get it over with. There's some strong ADHD over on this side of the camera, and so there will be some like rabbit holes and some threads that I never find again.
Yep.
And that'll be fun for all of us. So yes, I would love to ask how this is the first book in this series, the Haunting Hearts series. And I would love all the rest of them. Here, I have one of them here. I mean, it's just fantastic.
For those of
But
you that
the
are
rest-
listening rather than viewing, this is, wow, how do I even describe it? It's sort of a 70s, like the background is this very 70s sort of gothic romance, not, and I don't mean like romance, I mean like the gothic bodice ripper background with the fog and the castle. And then there's a man, he's got his foot up on a rock, because of course he does.
Very Captain Morgan.
Yes.
In his stance.
Yep.
And his billowy pirate shirt.
Yes, he's got a billowy pirate shirt and one of the worst haircuts I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's not great. He does look like he stepped out of like Days of Our Lives circa 1996.
Yep.
But like the flashback pirate episode. So, but all of the rest in this series have this Haunting Hearts logo up in the right-hand corner. And so I want to know, like, but Lynn's book does not.
Right.
It does not have that logo. So did this book start this? Did like Jove say, hey, that was a really popular book, maybe ghosts are the thing now?
Mm-hmm.
So is that what happened? Or did Jove go to Lynn and be like, hey, we were thinking ghosts, what do you think about ghosts? I would love to know how this all began, because the other thing is, like, Lynn's book is a good bit thicker. Like it's
a heftier romance.
Right. And hers tend to be kind of chunky. Also, fun fact, I went kind of searching through her site because I do enjoy her writing quite a lot. I've read a lot of these books. A lot of them are interconnected,
Mm-hmm.
series-wise. You don't have to read one to read the other, but if you love that like interconnected like MCU style.
I was gonna say,
situation.
it's like if the MCU didn't require you to watch every film in order to understand the next one.
Right. And some should argue maybe that is the way it should be. I would. Anyway, I went to Lynn Kurland's website, and she or her web mistress or some, I don't know who did it, but they're a damn genius. Not only do they have all of her books listed by many different, like, you can categorize them in different ways. You can list them by the series that they're a part of. You can reorganize the list by their publication date. You can reorganize the list by whether it has ghosts or whether it has time travel.
To be able to organize everything by are there ghosts or not in my life.
You click on it, ghosts, and it gave you the list of books that had ghosts. You clicked on time travel, and it gave you the list of books that have time travel. So I love that there's that kind of organization, one.
Yes.
Two, I love that, like, she has enough of these books to, like, be able to organize it like that. She's a queen.
Yes.
I just love it.
Yep. One of the things that really stands out to me about her writing is that if you are looking for any kind of spice, these are not the books for you.
No, I'm glad we're talking about that. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
One,
These are very closed door.
I mean, like
There's like,
the most closed door.
yeah,
It
yeah.
feels,
There is actually literally a scene where the door gets closed on ghosts.
yes, yes.
Which I think is, I was not signing up for like ghost voyeurism with that book, but I have this week read that in a
In a
different
different
book.
book, right? So you got your ghost voyeurism no matter
Yeah,
what.
I think I can only have like a little, like one ghost voyeur a week,
Right.
I think is enough for me.
Yeah, there's very little, it's a lot of hand holding and a lot of, there's very little kissing even. And I do
There's
remember,
a lot of like cuddling on the couch. They can't touch each other, so there's no real cuddling, but there's like the cuddle
right.
vibes, and it's very sweet.
And I remember in a lot of her books, there are a lot of discussions about virginity, and
Yes.
which is part of the thing that makes it feel very dated. He's like, oh no, this is a gift, and she's very scared
Well,
about.
I will say, as 14-year-old Shannon, again, I can see why this was a really good book to kind of to be in. We started our romance, the two of us, we started our romance like journey together. A book that Robin read, I
I
read.
stole
We
it
were
off
passing
the
them back
very
and
first
forth.
one we read. I stole off my mom's bookshelf.
Yes. Maybe we should reread that and do an episode on that at some
Could be
point
fun.
when we run out of ghost romances.
We'll
But
never run out
also,
of ghost romances.
we probably won't. I have a list of at least 40 so far, probably closer to 50. So buckle in, bitches. So, but we started with some pretty out there. Specifically, I'm thinking of Hellion, and you will probably hear me mention this book because when you read a book that is that, I say formative because it makes it sound like it informed some of my adult choices, because that isn't true.
Right, but like,
I have never stuck grapes up my hoo-ha.
and you know what? Your OBGYN is like, congratulations, because that could be really bad for you.
But the point is that we started with some crazy shit. And this book, Stardust of Yesterday, is a perfectly acceptable book to give to your 14.
Absolutely. If you have a kid that is interested in romance, if you have a kid, honestly, even like if you have a kid that is maybe leaning asexual, or you yourself are, but you love the romance elements of romance, but the sexy times is not for you, Lynn Kurland books are a wonderful place for you to find a home.
Yeah. This particular one, actually, I highlighted a thing here, like on page 54. It says, a gorgeous man who would never bother her with physical demands. She wasn't sure she knew how to satisfy. Nice. Safe conversation and nothing else. Life just got better all the time. So, like, her first thoughts are, oh, I've always been intimidated by men and relationships.
And here's one
Great.
that I don't ever have to, like, do anything with.
I get all the best parts of this.
Right.
I don't have to, like, feel the like insecurities and the whatever of actual physical intimacy. I don't, like I felt like that was a really, especially for 14-year-old Shannon, like, oh, okay, so this is a way, it felt like a way to sort of ease into those mental conversations with myself,
Sure.
And
we were coming up in an age where there wasn't for us, I think, maybe for other people it was very different, but we were raised pretty religiously. We met at church. So if that tells you anything. So we were not in a space where people were talking about sex that much, other than like, don't do it. So I can absolutely understand why, as younger people, this was a really like great book to ease into those kinds of things.
Yeah, it's an interesting way to explore your own thoughts and feelings about sex and how to experience it with another person. I will say these books are going to be really heteronormative.
1000%.
Like, just be ready for that. You're not going to get talks of like ace or sexuality, or it's not introspective in that way. But as I think that romance novels are a great resource for young people.
Yeah.
Or they were for me.
I mean, I
They
just
were a safe way for me to examine,
and
you know,
relationships and relationship dynamics and gender roles and all of those things. I mean, they were obviously really formative for both of us, and I'm sure if you're listening to this, you too. You're probably not listening to a romance podcast if romance has not made an impact on you.
yeah, probably.
I mean, that would just, I mean, you can if you want to.
We love you
Right.
all.
But yeah, no, these books, not all the books we read, because I think our next book is going to be a more modern book. But
Yes. Yeah.
any of these ones from the Haunted Hearts series, because they are old, you know, they're 96 is the first one, so they're at least 30 years old, are going to be pretty heteronormative.
Also, probably pretty problematic. We're gonna try and edit some, like we won't read. There's one that has some like a plot that I can't even pretend I'm gonna read. So
Yeah, no, we're you know, this is, we're not completionists, so we will list the book, but we're not, there's probably two that I am not interested at all in reading. Like,
that I know for sure that I'm
right.
not interested. There may be more, yeah. Yeah.
So, you know, we're not going to try to read or talk about anything that's going to be super harmful, but I will say that these are probably going to be heteronormative and pretty white.
God, yeah, they're like lily white.
Right. Which is why we are trying to pepper in some additional books that aren't from this series, that are by modern authors that still, you know, have a ghost or supernatural or time travel theme,
Mm-hmm.
so that we can stay on theme. We do love a theme.
We do love a theme.
But have a little bit more diversity in the reads. Because I know that I will get tired of just recent 2000s romances. I got tired of them then.
Yeah. 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 It's going to be fun to walk down memory lane. Rereading this one was a great time. And again, it did, for me, it was a little bit like a time capsule of who I was then and why I loved it so much. You know, I could go on and on about all of the ways that reading this book at 43 was like informative to me. I don't know, it was an interest to my journey, but I don't know that that's really an interesting, that's, you know, like that's more about my lore. You guys don't care about my lore.
I mean, you don't know that.
I mean, you
Yeah, but I
do,
was
but I don't
there. I
know.
was there.
You were there. Yeah, I do not have to speak the deep magic to you.
Was
You
there
were
when it
there
was
when it was
written.
written.
Yep, yep.
But yeah, it was really interesting to examine it again. Was there anything, I know you didn't love it coming back to it, but was there anything that you did love about it?
Let me look at my notes. I do love the idea that Genevieve, by going on this journey of self-discovery and not letting people walk all over her and being a stronger person, all of these men in her life, because there are really no other women in this book.
There's one,
And she talks to her like
Adelaide, who
once.
owns the
Antique shop
like
or something.
antique
Yeah,
shop.
and she talks to her like
Yeah,
once about Kendrick. So this book does not pass the Bechdel test.
does not.
But there are a lot of these men around her, like medieval ghost men, and they are all so proud of her that she's found her voice and she stands up to them. And I thought that that was a really lovely thing to come out of the mid 90s, because we still were not quite being socialized to be that way as women. There was it was a very mixed message kind of time.
Yes.
And I really appreciated that all of these men, every single man in her life was like, yay, you found gumption. Good for you, you know. I really liked that. Thought that was some good commentary. The romance, while it's not for me necessarily, it's not the kind that I like, it is very, very sweet. And the Kendrick, the main male character, is just a lovely person.
Yeah.
He's been on his own 800-year journey or whatever it is, and he's done a lot of soul searching, and he's had a lot of time to become a better person. He has in a lot of ways, and then when he meets Genevieve, he becomes an even better person, you know.
Right. Yeah.
So I enjoyed that, but I think there's not enough sort of internal monologuing for me. I want like deep longing, and
Yeah, it is a little bit like instant mashed potatoes.
it's comforting and I'm happy to eat it, but like it's not my favorite.
And also in the way that like it is hearty, but it is made fast.
Yes.
It is a little bit insta love, and I was fine with it. Had a great time rereading it. Honestly, I think I will. So, Lynn has a couple of other, as I discussed, she has more ghost romances that are in this world, and I will probably request that we read some of those as well,
I think there's
because
a time travel one that I remembered really enjoying too.
there's like a lot of them.
Yeah.
And I think they all sort of are in the same.
Yeah, she's created her own cinematic universe.
And it's medieval. And there was a back to the 90s. This is going to be like a anthropology project at this point.
Yeah.
So we have a niece together. My brother married her sister and had children, and then he fucked off. But
you're not wrong.
There's some deep lore for you. But the point of me saying all that is the oldest of those children is now 18 and at college. And isn't she taking an anthropology class?
She is indeed. So maybe this is a
Okay.
good, we can excerpt this for her.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, there was a lot of medieval in the 90s, and I was thinking about that as I was reading this book. There was a lot of this like Celtic mysticism
Yep.
like all of that was like, I mean,
well, it came along with like
was
river dance, and we had that moment where
Right.
Gregorian chant was like the number one. It was on the top 40.
I mean, come on.
Well, I love that album.
It was a great time to be alive, but like it's really interesting to me that we had so much medieval content then, and how we have very little of it now. However, I feel I don't read a lot of the fantasy or romantic-y stuff, but I feel like they are holding hand, like Stardust of Yesterday walked so that romantasy could run. You know what I mean? Like,
absolutely. You don't get any of that. I mean, that sort of starts with like D settings that spring off into fantasy. You know, well, I mean, D is fantasy, but those medieval settings,
castles and ruins,
dragons and ghosts and yeah, all of those things.
Curses and like witches who are, you can buy a curse from, which that was a subplot here. I guess it was a plot.
Yeah, but it was a very small plot.
Yeah, it was a small plot with big
repercussions.
That's the word. Yeah, so like I find it really interesting that there was so much. I've thought about this like just like before. I mean, you had Braveheart and I mean Highlander and all of these really, really medieval pieces of media.
I mean, the first costume I ever made for myself was in like a replica medieval gown.
Yes.
That was
yeah, it's interesting because you had this rehashing of medieval stuff, but then at the same time you're like crazy like zoot suit swing music.
Yeah.
Of these like.
Look, I was into all of it.
Really,
I was into medieval gown.
The Halloween that you made the medieval dress, I made a swing dress.
True. And then a year later, we went to take swing classes, and like, that was fun. I don't know that my knees could do that anymore, but
we are of our time.
We are indeed. But generally speaking, I enjoyed the book. It's not something I would probably pick up again as an adult, like I did when I was a teenager. But generally, I think if you enjoy sweet, closed-door romances, or you love a ghost, or you love a pseudo-medieval setting, I think you would really enjoy it. The writing is great, and I'm happy to have read it.
Yeah, I think I will do a little bit. I didn't actually look at what the like publication of, like, I don't know if this is the start of her like de Piaget
Uh-huh.
series. I think it might be. But I would be interested in revisiting the world, whether it be time travel or ghost,
Agreed. And I remember
because
really
I
in
find
what was that?
no, I find that I have a great time with the first book, but I often have an even better time with like the sixth
Right.
book. You know, like
Yep.
they've had it, the authors had a little time to like really sit in the world, and you get characters coming back and forth, and that's really
Yep.
fun.
Agreed. So we'll add some more into the rotation. But
Yes.
for our next book, what are we reading?
We are reading The Dead Romantics by
Ashley
Ashley
Poston.
Poston.
I love this
Is
book
it
so
Poston?
much.
Poston? So I saw that it was a ghost romance on the interwebs, and was like, sweet, I love those, I'm going to read it. And then but I didn't know the author, and I started to read it. I did not get very far into it, and I panicked because I could not see, it didn't read like a traditional romance. And I was like, if this is some not happily ever after Nicholas Sparks women's fiction shit, I'm going to riot. And so I put it down and never went
Right.
back.
Whereas I immediately was like, ooh, tell me more. And it is, that whole series is one of my favorites I've read in the last couple of years. So I am very excited to talk about it.
So now that I have been reassured that it is a happily ever after, it is a romance
Yes.
novel and not a
Yes.
lie. I'm excited to read it because I was enjoying the world and the writing. I just like was not sure. I do not fuck with
No.
not happily ever
No.
after. I just don't.
I mean,
It's not for me.
do, but not on this podcast.
Nope. I'm like, it's gonna be real. Eventually, Robin's gonna get me to read like The Locked Tomb or something, and I'm gonna be like, that was great, but I don't want to do it again.
I mean, I can't imagine that you would. I mean, you might enjoy the Locked Tomb series, but
Right. I'm open to trying things, but um
all right. Well, I think that's us finished for
yes.
this week. Let us know if you've read any ghost books that you love, and we'll see you.
If you had thoughts about this
Yep.
one, we would love to hear those thoughts. Did you love Kendrick? Did you enjoy the setting? Give us some feedback
Yep.
here. We will see you for our next book. And
Yeah, we'll chat about
yeah,
it
we're
very
gonna
soon.
go get a haircut.